Salesforce Marketing Cloud. A little bit about us. People probably know Salesforce for the CRM, for our Service Cloud, and for all the customer relationship management that we do. In addition to a great marketing platform for journey management, messaging channels, as well as activating all of our data through DMPs or to other channels as well, so we can leverage all of that rich first-party data that brands have in relation about their customers. In addition, last year we made an acquisition for Datarama, which provided additional analytics and insights and bringing all of that together to see what's working in your marketing mix, what's not working, what you want to tweak, and really leveraging all of that together across all of your marketing and advertising platforms. So with that, what we're going to talk about here today, so we're going to walk through our State of Marketing report. We did a research at the end of last year with 4,000 marketers, both B2B, B2C, B2B2C, and really looking at kind of the trends, the technology, how are things evolving. This survey was conducted by our research department, but it was a blind survey, so the participants did not know that it was a Salesforce survey. So we interviewed and surveyed 4,000 marketers around the globe, so this is worldwide information. As we would expect, a little bit heavier on kind of retail and consumer goods, as well as financial services, technology, and a lot of different industries. So this is the breakdown of kind of the stats that we'll look at. And this will dive into a lot of numbers, a lot of data. B2C marketing has become very data-driven, so we can leverage a lot of that here. In addition, all of this research we can share because we're just going to cover the highlights today. I'll talk to you at the end about how you can download and get all of this information. As we look at the kind of the company size as well, a lot of medium-sized businesses, really understanding that in marketing and advertising that this can play a lot, really a lot of different roles. That size of the company is not necessarily indicative of budget or of what companies are doing. So as we look at this, really keeping in mind that we surveyed a large breadth of customers, but also looked at kind of where they fell in that spectrum, even though it's not as predictive of outcome. And then obviously a little bit heavier skewing segment in B2B and B2B2C. So we're looking at all of that as it comes together. This is how the marketers, when we did the survey, rated themselves. So everybody thinks that they're in the middle. Does everybody think that they're a B student? So I kind of go back and say, so everybody's in the middle. About 70% said, hey, we're doing okay. 15% probably are more honest and know that they are a C student and realize that there's probably a lot that they need to learn and do. And then 16% feel that they're at the top of the class. So this is all self-reported, and we'll kind of see how the differences trend in what the high performers are doing versus what the people who feel that they have a lot more to do. As customers, we all expect this. Last year in our State of the Connected Customer research, a really interesting stat came out that 80% of consumers think that experience is as important as the product or service. That really changes the paradigm as marketers that we have to think about that entire customer life cycle. And 54% of high-performing marketing teams are leading that initiative across the organization. It was really interesting that something that came up yesterday when we talked about connecting with that brand is the marketer, we're the first, especially in direct-to-consumer brands, we're the first touch point, we're the first impression with marketing and advertising. And we really need to carry that experience and be the owner of that experience as we go throughout that entire customer life cycle, because the marketer, the advertising, is the face of the brand for the vast majority of companies. Our customers, and even as we are consumers, we're doing a lot of our research online before we even talk to somebody, before we pick up the phone. We've already gone through 90% of that decision process. So thinking about how we can connect that experience, make it personalized, and then really begin to have all those channels be consistent. And the high-performer marketers are leading this across their organizations. The top priorities for marketers, these are the top lines that came out of the survey. Really engaging with customers in real time, leveraging all of that data, having that consistency. We know that's really important as marketers because we're sitting there in line at Starbucks and we're on our phone. We're not on just one channel, we're on a lot of different channels. We're flipping around from apps, email, and having that consistency is really important, and thus a priority for top marketers. Optimizing the marketing mix, looking at the analytics, how we can improve that. maximizing the tools and the investment that we're getting, and then getting that unified customer data source, so unifying all of that together to be able to make it actionable. It's no wonder then that the top priority was also the top challenge. The top challenge for most marketers in the survey was engaging with customers in real time. Connecting that experience, understanding, and having that consistency across all the channel. We'll dive into the channel metrics a little bit further into the report and really see that who's doing it well, and that a lot of things are still actually kind of sliding back in some areas. So what can, as marketers, can we do to lead that change inside our organization? So as we look at marketing becoming that cross-functional experience, again, the marketers and brand people inside the organization leading that relationship, we really look at those cross-functional experiences, and the good thing about it is teams are more aligned than ever. So 62% of individual teams say they're more aligned than ever before. I'm kind of worried about the 38% that are less aligned or have no alignment. They're probably running into some customer experience issues as we look through that. But really judging the idea that that alignment's extremely important. And the marketing leaders are starting to optimize and get their goals and metrics aligned. And this is really important too, as we think about our broader teams and really having that cross-channel customer engagement. As we think about it, and to drive that digital transformation across the organization, we begin to have to think about what is the total lifetime value, what are the metrics that actually drive business and drive those outcomes, and move beyond some of those kind of individual channel metrics. Now, things are going to ladder up, and we're going to have those results that are going to help optimize spend and all that, but what are the ultimate goals that we're trying to drive over time, and how do our existing channel level metrics ladder up to that? So really thinking about that as we align our structure across the organization. Again, 45% on average, our marketers are leading that across the organization. Those are B students. But we really look at the top perform about 9% better than that. The great news, though, we see, and I hear a lot of it in this room and the conversations that we've had over the last couple of days, is that marketing and advertising stacks are coming together. 93% of high performers are integrating their marketing and advertising stacks. That's 69% for underperformers. So that's one of the biggest things we can do to really drive performance, is connecting all of that customer data, being able to activate all of that rich first-party data that we have as a brand across all of our channels. 61% are sharing common goals and metrics. And so it really does allow for collaboration. Having that consistency, that cross-channel experience, that cross-team experience really does drive success. And having the transparency and the visibility, so everybody's kind of working across the organization to understand how our email affects our advertising and our mobile messaging affects our email and our website, and how all of that works together really provides a ton of brand value, because you're able to see how my performance or my campaigns can affect other areas in that business, and it really does drive success by having that transparency and visibility across the organization. And we see, this is, surprising. I think that, I would have guessed, if you asked me this research before, I would have thought that marketing and commerce would have been higher or more connected. But, it seems like teams are still a little bit siloed in that industry as well. Marketing and sales, we've had the constant kind of how do marketing and sales, especially in a B2B world, get aligned. That's some classic challenges. And then marketing and service. And this is one that we really should, it was mentioned a couple of times earlier, marketing and service is a great opportunity to really improve the customer experience and drive towards that 80% that say customer experience is as important as the product or service. We really look at this, a 21% increase in suppressing of people with open cases, an open customer service case from advertising. So really thinking about that, we've talked about the idea of onboarding our customers, because as a current customer, you have all my data, you know what I've purchased, and we shouldn't be advertising to that person like there's an unknown consumer. In our State of the Connected Customer report, 80% of people are willing to give up data for a better experience. So really thinking about how we can go to our customer service teams, how we can pull them in and get their data in real time to say, if they've got an open case, let's not be sending them 20% off. If they've got a lot of issues and things that aren't working well, let's really think about connecting that experience so we can say, hey, let's pause on the email campaigns, or let's pause on our advertising and hold out till we have them in a better place. Or we can put them in a different journey and send different messages that really resonate with the fact that they have that open case. So leading brands are starting to do this to really connect all of their customer service with their ongoing marketing, and high performers are leading that way. So really kind of doing that not only with onboarding new customers, upselling new customers, but also looking at your open case or kind of unresolved issues. And when we dive a little bit more into kind of the retail and consumer goods vertical, we see that 88% of retail and consumer goods marketers have alignment between marketing and advertising. 44% of those marketers are leading initiatives. Again, retail and consumer goods actually in this space is kind of trailing other industries. So looking at the new dynamics for upping the data sources, 47% of marketers know where all the data is. Unfortunately, we've got 12 sources and on average growing to 15. So there's a lot of additional sources of data, leveraging all of that. Pulling that together to create that single view of the customer is really a challenge for marketers and continues to be something that we need to look together to how do we leverage all of the data and all of those different sources. And looking at kind of the common types of data where people are trying to create that identity, obviously marketing database would be one where people are keeping that in-house and really looking to identify that user across all of our different channels and all of our different segments. CRM, email providers, data management platforms, CDPs, some through the homegrown solutions, and then some in the marketing automation platforms. So it really sees when we look at this data, it's kind of all over the place. And I'm sure everybody in this room has different experiences with data in certain places, and kind of connecting that can be a challenge. So really looking at how we leverage that with retail and commerce. And we look at that, and it's actually even more sources for retail and consumer goods, which we would expect. But it's interesting to notice the trend, the 13% increase in using second-party data. So finding those partners where I can leverage second-party data to get smarter about my target audience, to use that for content creation, to use it for segmenting, and starting to leverage that. And the DMP use cases, so the data management platform use cases, are starting to shift. Not only is it used for media buying and optimization, but it's also being used for content personalization, and then leveraging for analytics and performance data. So being able to leverage that, a lot of marketers are now using it to identify new audiences. Tell me something I didn't know about my program, because as we bring in artificial intelligence into the DMP space, we can crunch a lot of data really quickly to identify those new audiences and segments. Trust and artificial intelligence. This is has been the buzzword for years, but really kind of continuing to see the leverage of artificial intelligence. Huge opportunity to improve data analytics, improve that overall personalization, to really let the data decide. Because you can go through, and as marketers, we can create 5, 6, 7, 8 versions of an email or a campaign, but to truly kind of bend that curve up of scale and personalization and to drive those results, it does have to truly be one-to-one. We need to start to connect that message and really pull that scale up by turning that corner. I can build 10, 15 segments and segment my list and do dynamic content, but for it really to take off, we need to leverage the data, put the templates and the processes in place, and let artificial intelligence drive that content and performance higher. And really seeing that almost 3 times more likely to use artificial intelligence for high performers versus underperformers. And we really see all of the different uses for artificial intelligence, 257% growth in the last 2 years, predictive journeys, improved segmentation. Again, a great opportunity to really look at data and tell me something I don't know. Because who wants to go through 1 million customer records with 1,000 rows of data and try to find some pattern or some significant thing? Let's let the data scientists and the data decide and pull that out for us. So again, offline and online data experience, really dynamic content, and then predicting those overall customer journeys. And when we look at trust, the thing that's really fascinating about this is really, we talked earlier about the idea that people are willing to give data for that customized experience. And 44% of marketers go beyond regulations or industry standards to protect customer data. This is incredibly important to look and really think about how we're treating customer data. Customers want to be in control. We all want this as consumers. I think this is a very interesting area to work in and has been for several years since I started at ESPN 25 years ago, looking at the fact that we have a ton of data so we know what's possible. As marketers, as consumers, we're also a little concerned about what's possible and all of that stuff out there. So really looking at how we kind of balance that artificial intelligence, balance the trust, and really pulling all of that together to create personalized experience, trusted experiences, and to have consumers have that trust in our brands. And then finally, really adapting new standards. When they say new standards for this, I really don't know that kind of the idea of cross-channel marketing is a new standard. I did take marketing back in the 90s in college at Baylor, and we did do the idea of reach and frequency models. So I think 25 years later, it actually still applies that reach and frequency works. We're just, instead of talking about magazines and radio and television, we're talking about OTT, we're talking about outdoor signage, we're talking about personalized, customized direct mail, email, mobile messaging. So the idea that all of this needs to be connected is nothing new, but we have great new ways of leveraging that to where we can move beyond brand. We can leverage all of that rich first-party data. I know what somebody bought. I know what somebody purchased, and we can leverage that. I know that it's been 8 years since somebody bought their mattress, so hey, let's offer them $100 off and sell them a new mattress. Right? Leveraging all of that data allows us to create those personalized experiences, and we can match all of that to the different channels and be right in real time where that customer wants that, and have those consistent rules across all those channels. Because that's really important, because as somebody's flipping through a lot of different channels on their phone or on their computer and on their phone at the same time, a lot of people are watching on their phone while they're streaming something on television. Having that consistent experience and that two-device experience is extremely important, and really leveraging real-time interaction to have that air traffic controller sitting across all of the platform allows us to do that in real time by connecting and setting those rules for that experience. We dive into kind of retail and consumer goods, and the interesting thing is in our research, the siloed data, the siloed segment, so people who are still kind of operating in silos, actually increased 3 or 4 percentage points this last year, which is really interesting that we think as much as we talk about connecting the data and creating this experience overall as a larger industry, we're kind of slipping back a little bit. So we're really looking about 40% are duplicative. That means that your mobile team and your web team and your advertising team and your email team are all creating the same campaigns and the same assets, but it's not connected. It's not a connected experience. Everybody, hey, we've got the same creative, we have the same content, but it's not connected. And then 34% are able to change and update their content in real time across multiple channels. So about a third of the group is really kind of hitting on all cylinders where they're creating that experience where it's cross-channel, real-time, and personalized content. Again, top metrics for retailers would not be surprised to have revenue growth. That's probably really the top goal for every marketer if you ask them what their goals are. Sales effectiveness, traffic, and then return on investment, and then retention, customer retention. So as we look at that, really kind of looking at the 4 key takeaways of where we see marketing evolving, kind of benchmarks against our standards. We have 4 great reports that have all of this information. So if you don't want to actually text, you can also go to salesforce.com/research. We have all of our research papers there, or research reports there, as well as sales, service, kind of everything that's happening across the entire customer experience. If we look at this, the trust survey that we did it was great information on personalization and trust and what customers are willing to give up. Connected is the state of the connected customer, so that's really just validates all of the things that we do as consumers in our everyday life to say, hey, let's put some data behind it so we can go champion and get things done and get buy-in at the executive level. State of marketing I mentioned, and then our digital advertising talked about advertising platforms and where everything's going in the next year. So you can, again, salesforce.com/research for all of that information. I'd like to invite everybody to Chicago for June 17th through the 19th, right after you go to Email Insider Summit for Media Post. June 17th through the 19th in Chicago for a time with marketing technology, customer service, the whole entire customer experience in Chicago. It's a great time to be there. It's a little bit warmer than Austin in March, we hope. So with that, I want to say thank you for your time and give it back to John.
All right.